Is Nigel Farage on the side of Jimmy Savile? That's the extraordinary accusation from the Technology Secretary Peter Kyle made on the morning media round after Nigel Farage said he would scrap the Online Safety Act. Well, some people are calling it the Online Censorship Act after the real implications of this act have started to roll out. But let's dive into this extraordinary war of words. My name's Tom Harwood and this is GB News Originals. Remember to click that subscribe button to stay completely up to date. Now, Nigel Farage has said that his party, Reform UK, would scrap the Online Safety Act, with some of the members of that party describing it as the Online Censorship Act. Why? Because the duty placed on online companies, any tier 1 online company, that's a website that has 7 million or more users, or indeed any website that allows user-generated content, no matter how many users it has. There are new impositions placed on those websites, trying to protect under 18-year-olds from seeing what the government decides is harmful content.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
But of course, these companies are very worried about fulfilling their legal obligations. The potential 10% turnover tax that could be placed on these companies as a fine if they step out of line with the Act has meant that they are very overzealous with restricting content from all people, unless those people can verify their age. And how do you verify your age? With a scan of your face or by submitting your credit card details, some things that perfectly law-abiding people simply do not want to do. While some websites have simply removed access from anyone in Britain rather than do the fiddly details of compliance with this legislation, there are other websites that have implemented age restrictions. But age restrictions that aren't just limited to things like pornography, also restricting contentious political arguments or descriptions of horrific deeds like the transcripts of the grooming gang trials. These things have been restricted too. But because Nigel Farage has said that this act has gone far too far, that it restricts the rights of law-abiding people to access the global internet as we could just weeks before, well, Peter Kyle, the Technology Secretary, has said that because this act was designed to protect children, anyone who opposes it must be on the side of child abusers. He even raised the name of the notorious paedophile Jimmy Savile. This is a particularly potent political attack line, not least because the Jimmy Savile affair back a few years ago when Boris Johnson raised the question of that notorious paedophile during a session of Prime Minister's questions, Labour shadow ministers, including Peter Kyle himself, criticised Boris Johnson for bringing the name of Jimmy Savile into the political arena, especially after Keir Starmer was hounded by a group of angry people, what was described as a mob, after Boris Johnson raised the question of his record as Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, it's true that during the time that Jimmy Savile was alive, he wasn't prosecuted for his crimes. And of course, for a stretch of that time, the Director of Public Prosecutions was Sir Keir Starmer. That's what Boris Johnson pointed out across the dispatch box. But the Labour Party said that that was beyond the pale to say, that that was going into the dark realms of distasteful politics. And yet, now we're seeing an increasingly desperate Labour Party use exactly the same sorts of attacks, perhaps with even less justification, against the leader of the Reform Party. Shall we remind ourselves of what Peter Kyle, the Technology Secretary, had to say?
I see that Nigel Farage is already saying that he's going to overturn these laws. So, we have people out there who are extreme pornographers, peddling hate, peddling violence. Nigel Farage is on their side. Make no mistake about it, if people like Jimmy Savile were alive today, he'll be perpetrating his crimes online. And Nigel Farage is saying that he's on their side.
I'm sorry.
Not the side of children who are...
I'm going to ask you to clarify. Do you honestly think to say Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side?
When it comes to online activity, we have seen unfettered access of adults to children via social media. When we put in the age verification, it stops strange adults getting in touch with children. So make no mistake.
This is a major leap. You're going to stick to the fact that you said that Nigel Farage is on Jimmy Savile's side.
Nigel Farage is on the side of turning the clock back to the time when strange adults, strangers, can get in touch via messaging apps with children. We have now asked to age verify the age in which people can have access to online content, so we can protect children from unwanted, dangerous content, and also those messaging services where people can get access directly to it. Nigel Farage wants to turn the clock right back when all of that, I have absolutely no doubt about it, people are perpetrating more crime online, more danger to children online, and Nigel Farage has said he wants to overturn every single one of the laws that keeps children safe in our country.
It's an extraordinary political attack line, and is one that Nigel Farage has rejected in the strongest possible terms, demanding that the Technology Secretary apologise and retract his words. The irony here, of course, is that for many children in the United Kingdom, as a result of the Online Safety Act, the internet has become less safe. What do I mean? Well, 5 of the top 10 free apps in the UK App Store are now VPNs. Virtual private networks, ways to pretend to any internet service provider that you are in a different place other than the UK, i.e. not subject to any of the restrictions of British laws. So really, when it comes to how people are interacting with the internet, by pretending they are no longer in the United Kingdom, the huge popularity of people downloading virtual private networks, or using virtual private networks, should I say, enables them to get around the most stringent restrictions of this act, but also opens up a much more open internet to these individuals than before, and doesn't allow the government to track them in quite the same way. To some extent, children and families of all ages, if they download a VPN or use a VPN, they have access to a far more open internet than before, with far fewer hackers and trackers trying to follow them at the same time. It was, after all, Boris Johnson who once produced a video on Twitter encouraging everyone in Russia to get around the censors of Putin's regime by installing a virtual private network. Now it seems that Brits are following suit, that Brits are doing what people in authoritarian countries have done for years, and get around their national censorship regimes, get around their siloed form of the internet by accessing the wider internet that the rest of the world enjoys. Why is this important and particularly pertinent at a time like now? Well, this government wants to lower the age at which people can vote, down from 18 to 16. And yet this same government has overseen the implementation of a law that prevents people that they want to be voters, 16 and 17-year-olds, from accessing political speech. There was a speech by Katie Lamb, the Shadow Minister and Member of Parliament in the House of Commons, which detailed the graphic horror of the grooming gang scandal. She quoted victims and did not mince her words. The recording of that speech is one of those things that has been censored under the new regime. Too harsh for the delicate ears of people under the age of 18. That's the assessment, that this speech was in some way harmful. Now, of course, it is a graphic speech. It does describe great horrors, generational horrors. And yet, surely, if people are going to be voting in general elections, they should know all the facts. It's a difficult moral position to take, to say that there should be a two-tier access level of information for voters in this country. That a 17-year-old who is going to go and vote in a general election is not allowed to know the full extent of the grooming gang scandal. But there's more than that. Other elements of speech that was, until last weekend, free online has now been restricted. Videos of protests outside migrant hotels have been amongst the content that has been restricted by this age verification filtering. Now, that doesn't just mean that people who are 16 and 17-year-olds can't see the extent of these protests. It also means that anyone who is unwilling to scan their face or give their credit card details to some random online company also can't by default see that information too. We are creating a very strange world of a two-tier internet where people who are able to verify or even willing to verify who they are by handing over details to companies online are able to access information that other people can't. And that's before we get into data protection. We know that the government has had a terrible record of data protection, sending thousands of names and addresses to the Taliban just a couple of years ago, to name but one instance of that horror. We also saw, on the very day that these restrictions came into the British internet, over in America, one of the most popular apps in the App Store, the T app, it leaked, it spilled out. It had been storing photographs of its users, verification selfies that the female users of this female-only app had taken. Well, hackers were able to find those images, which the company said were deleted instantly. They were able to find them in a public bin in the HTML of that website. It is extraordinary that we are expected to believe there will be no hacking, that there will be no data protection risks, that there will be no leaking or indeed extortion of people who upload photographs of themselves to access various websites online. And there's a further issue that hasn't been considered at all, that hasn't been considered by Peter Kyle or the companies that want to do age verification. And that's for law-abiding people who might want to access a pornographic website. Well, there will be a new social norm now created, that a website will ask to turn on your webcam, that a website will ask for you to take a picture of yourself to verify your own age before you can access that website. How many people are going to fall foul of fake websites that request access to your webcam? They say in order to check your age, but really in order to record you and then extort you. We're opening up the internet to such a dangerous age. Number one, pushing children onto a far less regulated internet with no restrictions at all, thanks to the use of virtual private networks. But number two, creating norms that risk data protection breaches and indeed extortion and sextortion of adults. These are issues that the government simply hasn't considered. And if they say they've considered it, clearly they haven't considered it very deeply at all. So what does this all mean? This means that the government is retreating to ad hominem attack, to say that anyone who raises any concerns about this sweeping new censorship law online must be on the side of Jimmy Savile. It is the most extraordinary political attack, and it's one that reveals a deeply desperate technology secretary. Well, I have a feeling that this row is not going to be one that goes away anytime soon. We're going to keep a close eye on it here at GB News, so remember to click that subscribe button to stay completely up to date.